I can see that we still got people signing in as we speak. So what we'll do, as we often do, we'll just pause for a moment or so just to allow everyone currently signing in time to get sensible, and we'll begin time. So once again, thanks to everyone for joining us on our latest webinar, and thanks to those of you who've said you've got a few technical problems and you're just getting things sorted. We'll pause for around about 1 minute or so just to allow everyone time to get settled in and comfortable, and we'll start in round about 1 minute's time. Thank you. Welcome to our hope everybody is comfortable, and so let's begin. I'd like to kick things off just by introducing myself very briefly. My name is Matt, and it's my pleasure to be with you on the webinar this evening. Now, before we get started, we do have some handouts available, which you may or may not have noticed. If you would like to download those, please do feel free. If you would like to, but don't want to do it in the middle of the webinar, I'll give you a quick reminder shortly before we reach the end. So you will get a reminder before we finish things up this afternoon. Also, if you would like to ask questions at any time, you should be able to see a questions field, a bit like the one on the screen at the moment. So please feel free to send through any questions you might have about anything we cover in the webinar today, or indeed anything Railbookers related that may not be on the webinar. We're happy to receive those too. And one of the team will be in touch to answer those. If we have time, I'll see if I can answer one or two towards the end of the webinar as well. But we normally get quite a few questions coming through, so we don't normally have time to be able to answer all of them, sadly, live on the webinar, but we will answer them all one way or another. So if you have submitted one and I don't pick it at random at the end of the webinar today, don't despair, because we will make sure they're answered one way or another. So what are we going to cover in today's webinar? A very good question. We're going to look at journeys that are all a short distance away from London, but also that you can start from any UK train station. So there'll be a selection of weekend getaways, city breaks, and also some new holidays as well. But the overall theme, overarching theme, is that they're all a bit closer to home this week. So just before we start the main part of the webinar, a quick recap perhaps, and maybe an introduction for some of you who perhaps haven't travelled with Railbookers before, or who are less familiar with who we are and what we do. What do Railbookers offer? Well, essentially, we aim to be a one-stop shop for your overall rail holiday experience. So that's not just the train travel, important of course as that is, and a very important component with all of the train journeys and confirmed seat reservations and so on, but also other things such as sightseeing activities in all of the main attractions and places of interest for all of the destinations that you visit on the course of your holiday, many of which will have what we call skip the line access, which basically means you don't have to stand outside in a queue, but you can go inside and spend more time looking around and visiting the places that you actually want to see in the first place. We also have a range of centrally located hotels, all of which are very easily accessible from the main train stations, and they range from 3-star through to 5. So whatever your taste, whatever your budget, whatever the star rating you prefer, we'll have a great option available for you. Many of our holidays also feature journeys by ferry, some exciting excursions, and also overnight rail journeys as well. Why do so many travellers love travelling with Railbookers? Well, there's a number of different reasons. Travelling by train really does offer a great number of bucket list experiences. It could be for special occasions. Perhaps you've always wanted to head over to Venice on board the famous Orient Express. That's definitely one. It could be that you've always wanted to travel by train overland from coast to coast across the USA. That's another. Or it could be ticking off one or two of those destinations that you've always wanted to visit, but for whatever reason, you've never quite got around to it. Whatever it might be, there's plenty of bucket list experiences that you can tick off. Traveling by train also offers great freedom and flexibility. The vast majority of holidays that you see on our website or in our brochure, and every one that we'll look at on the webinar today, can be done any day of the year, all year round. And as many of you will agree, I'm sure, traveling by train really is the scenic way to travel. It's not just a way of getting from A to B, although of course it does offer that as well, but it really does mean that traveling by train, traveling at ground level, you see a lot more. In many cases, you might be traveling from one country into another, or even in larger countries, traveling over long distances, or traveling from state to state in the USA, for example. You really do get a sense of the travel involved and the different landscapes that you pass through, and it really does make the journey part of the overall holiday experience. All of the itineraries that you see here are customizable, so whether you like the look of them, but you think it would be great if they could be a little bit longer, a little bit shorter maybe, or you'd like to add in a destination that isn't included, whatever you want to do, we can customize it to make sure it's the perfect holiday for you. And really, whether you want to go in 2 days' time, perhaps not so likely right now, or 2 years' time, the message is that our holidays go at any time, any day, anywhere. If the train goes there, then so do we. We do have a maximum flexibility offer in place at the moment as well. So for all new reservations, you can change your travel dates or postpone your rail holiday at any point up until 5 days prior to departure without incurring any change fees to do so. And that's the same for existing reservations too. You can postpone or reschedule at any point up until 5 days prior to departure without incurring any change fees. You also benefit from 24-hour support from our global offices, so not just in London, but also our colleagues in Sydney, Australia, Toronto, Canada, and we have 2 offices in the USA. One on the East Coast, Beverly, which is just outside of Boston, and also Laguna Hills, California too. And we also aim to take the mystery out of rail travel for you. This great map, which by the way is one of those free handouts, so if you haven't downloaded it and you would like to, remember to make sure you do that. This map shows all the different colors, so some of the main rail networks, rail operators across Europe. And one of the confusing things can be that they don't always talk to each other, for want of a better word, as well as they could do. They certainly don't release all of their tickets for booking at the same time, and they don't always release them when they're supposed to either. So it can all be a little confusing, even down to things like what's the best way of traveling from A to B when there's more than one option, which is the most scenic option that will show me the best scenery en route, which is going to be the quickest option, which option would you recommend? So we aim to take all of the complexity, all of the mystery out of that for you. And one of the ways that we do that is that we have direct partnerships with all of the main rail operators in Europe, North America, and beyond. So that's, for example, our good friends and colleagues at Trenitalia in Italy, Renfe, the Spanish railways, Deutsche Bahn, Swiss railways, Eurostar, where so many of our holidays begin, of course, SNCF, and across the pond with Amtrak and Via Rail, who are Canadian railways, and many more too. And one of the things that allows us to do is firstly to get access to the best available prices for you, of course, which is important. But equally important is that it allows us to be able to advertise all of the holidays that you see here up to 2 years in advance. And that's important at the best of times, because if you want to travel at a popular time or for a special occasion, it's always good to confirm these things early. But it's especially important this year because, let's face it, none of us are traveling anywhere, sadly, right at this minute, are we? As much as we might like to, I'm sure. So it's really important to be able to offer all of these itineraries up to 2 years in advance, and most importantly, being able to confirm them at this year's prices, rather than have any price increases that may happen closer down the line. Now, a question that we are being asked at the moment for very obvious reasons is how rail operators are maintaining a safe travel environment. And really, they're doing that in a number of different ways. Firstly, they're requiring facial coverings both in stations and on trains for both passengers and staff. They're also, in many cases, stopping the sale of food and drink on board trains and changing the seat configurations and allocation on board in order to allow for social distancing. They are increasing the cleaning and sanitation measures on board, and also, where possible, ticket control is being done contactless, just to have increased that important social distancing wherever possible. And I can vouch for this motley collection of individuals that you can see here, because these are some of my colleagues. And each year we're lucky enough to be able to experience and try out one of the different holidays that we offer. And that's important not only to become familiar with the hotels, the train journeys, the trains themselves, and the destinations, of course, that we feature, but also it means that if you do have specific questions more in depth related to one of the destinations or one of the holidays that we feature, then it means that there's always somebody available who's actually experienced the journey or the holiday themselves and can answer those questions for you. So, as we like to put it, we know because we go. Oh, these holidays and getaways that are a bit closer to home. And we'll start off within the UK with our Grand Inverness and Highlands holiday, which is 6 days in total. And we actually start off with an overnight journey on the Caledonian Sleeper from London through to Inverness, where we have a 4-night stay. And there's lots of activities included in Inverness, as well as a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour in Inverness. We also have a sightseeing tour of Loch Ness, including Glen Urquhart Castle, and also a full-day trip to the Isle of Skye, including a visit to Eilean Castle as well. So lots and lots included. And we start off with a journey on the Caledonian Sleeper from London to Inverness. Now, These train actually launched brand new rolling stock last year, so all of these cabins are very, very new. They only started last year, as I say, and there are 3 different sleeping cabin options to choose from. The first option is called the Classic Room, and it looks a little bit like the image that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, with the classic sleeping car accommodation of one bed above the other one. But there are 2 upgraded options available. The first one is called the Club Room, and essentially it's very similar, but the key differences are that you get an ensuite bathroom included within the cabin, so you have your own shower and toilet, and also you get access to the club lounge, including your breakfast the following morning. And the next category up is the Caledonian Double, which you can see on the image at the top left-hand part of the screen there. And as well as the bathroom and the access to the club lounge and lots of other amenity products which you get in the cabin, the key difference here is, as you can see, you get a double bed, which, as anyone who's traveled by train overnight before will tell you, I'm sure, and many of you will have done, I know, they're not quite as rare as hen's teeth, but it's very rare to be able to get that. So it does make for a very comfortable, luxurious overnight travel experience. So if that's something you fancy, there are only ever a maximum of 2 of those cabins on any of these train journeys. So if you fancy a holiday including the Caledonian Sleeper and you fancy splashing out for the Caledonian Double with the double bed, then really the early bird does catch the worm here, because there's only ever 2 of them. And it's worth mentioning as well the Club Lounge, where you have your breakfast included with the last 2 categories that I mentioned. You can also use the Club Lounge in the evening when you depart, as you leave London. If you fancy getting into the swing of things, perhaps with a meal of haggis, tatties and neeps, you can do that. Doesn't have to be that option, though. There are plenty of other options available. But also, if you want to get into the swing of things in a different way, there's an extensive selection of Highland malts available. But equally, you could just as easily settle down and relax and have a coffee or a glass of wine or whatever it might be as you head off into the night and head north. But it is a lovely place to enjoy a breakfast in the morning as you wake up and you're in the Scottish countryside up in the Highlands heading towards Inverness. And a reminder, if you've gone for the Club Room or the Caledonian Double, then you have your breakfast included in the Club Lounge as part of the ticket price. If you're in the Classic Room, it's not that you can't use it, but you can only use it once everybody else has been and gone. So really you're waiting on everyone else to have finished to make sure that whether you can get in or not. So it is well worth thinking about the upgrade because it's a lovely place to sit down, relax, and you've got obviously the windows either side to enjoy some of that great Highland scenery as well. And then once we arrive in Inverness, the largest city in the Highlands, we've got the hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour included in the city itself, but also we've got some trips out to some of those wide open spaces that, if you're anything like me, you can't wait to get out and explore once life starts to return to normal. And of course, in the Scottish Highlands, what great wide open spaces they have. On the left, you can see the Isle of Skye, or a particular part of the Isle of Skye, I should say. And then one of the great things about Skye is that the landscape does vary from picturesque fishing villages, as you can see here, with those great, multicolored houses that you can see on the right-hand side, to the rugged beauty of the coastlines and the great wildlife they have over there as well, from puffins. Seals and dolphins are not uncommon either in that part of the world. Lots of different types of birds, of course, too. So we know there are lots of different types of landscapes are on offer. And you also get to visit Eilean Castle, which is another great photo opportunity. And Eilean Castle Eilean is where it's a small tidal island where 3 different lochs converge and come together. And there is, unsurprisingly, a castle in the middle, which is a very picturesque spot. Equally picturesque is the Loch Ness area, of course, which is a must-do on any trip over to that part of the Highlands. And we have a full day trip over to the Loch Ness region, amongst other things. Probably you're not going to see Nessie, let's be honest, but it's a beautiful part of the Highlands, and you get to tour the surrounding area as well, including a trip to Glen Urquhart Castle on the shores of the loch, which is another great place for taking plenty of photos, videos, souvenirs of the day. But beautiful part of the world, beautiful part of the country, and very, very easy to access and close to home, of course. A slightly different holiday, also featuring the Caledonian Sleeper. We have a holiday including London, York, and Edinburgh. And this one starts off with an overnight journey on the Caledonian Sleeper from London up to Edinburgh. Then we have a 2-night stay in Edinburgh, and then train travel down the east coast, which if you follow the dotted line, you can see that the train line actually hugs the coastline pretty closely for this part of the journey. So you get some great views of the sea and the coastline as you head down to York, first of all, for a 2-night stay, before returning to London for your final night. And we have a city tour of Edinburgh and hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour of York included. So after the journey on the Caledonian Sleeper, we arrive in Edinburgh, and what a great destination Edinburgh is. I think sometimes we can forget about some of the wonderful destinations we have in our own country, and Edinburgh is certainly one of those. Great place to explore. We've got a city tour, and I think one of the amazing things is the contrasts between the medieval Old Town, which you can see here, and the Georgian New Town. They're also on slightly different levels, which I always think is quite interesting. And there's some great alleyways and streets that link the two, which provide plenty to explore. And also, of course, in the Old Town area, we've got the Edinburgh Castle, home of the Scottish Crown Jewels. And a good fact about the castle itself is that it's located on the site of an extinct volcano, which I think is pretty interesting in itself, really. But lots and lots to see and do and visit in Edinburgh, lots of great history, as there is in the next destination in York. We can see the famous York Minster on the right-hand side of the screen. We have a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour included in York, which are always really useful, I think, really helpful for getting around, particularly if you don't know the destination that well. And also, of course, it acts as your transportation as well, so no need for taxis or public transport or anything like that. As well as the York Minster, which dates from the 7th century, in York, an absolute must-do definitely is to take a circuit around the famous medieval city walls, which are obviously lots of history there, and also provide some great panoramas over the city, as indeed you get from the tower at the top of the York Minster, which really does provide some great views too. Another great part of the city to visit in York is the street known as the Shambles, which has some buildings dating back as far as the 14th century. And some really interesting shops and tea rooms there now, but it really is a bit like traveling back in time to an extent. So a beautiful part of the city and well worth a visit. So now we've looked at a couple of holidays, perhaps it's time for a very quick detour looking at what it actually means to customize a holiday. So there's quite a few different ways that you can do that. One is that you can add on any destination that isn't featured. So for example, on the last holiday that we looked at, if you wanted to add on, say, Inverness first, as we had a feature of the first holiday up in the Highlands, then it'd be very easy to add Inverness onto the last holiday and make the holiday a little bit longer. You can also make the journey into a round trip if you want to start and finish in the same destination. That's perfectly possible to do, very straightforward. All you need to do is let us know. So a bit like the example you can see in the middle of the screen that starts in Geneva and finishes in Zurich. If you'd rather start and finish in the same destination, which makes a lot of sense, that's very easy to do. All you need to do is make sure you tell us. You might also want to do the trip in reverse. So again, if that makes more sense to you, that's really straightforward for us to do for you. All you need to do is let us know. One of the options that people choose quite regularly to customize a holiday is to upgrade some or all of the rail travel to first class. And there's a number of different ways that people choose to do that. Some people would like to upgrade all of the rail journeys to first class to take advantage of the extra comfort, extra leg room, and so on. Whereas other people might just pick one or two journeys to upgrade because they're the most important part of the travel for them. So it could be, for example, on the journeys we've seen on the Caledonian Sleeper, upgrading the cabin types, but also when traveling by day on, for example, some of our popular Swiss holidays. There are a couple of very famous scenic journeys, the Glacier and Bernina Express, and sometimes we have people who ask, I really want to upgrade that particular journey to first class, but does that mean that I have to upgrade all of the other journeys too? And the answer to that question is you can do, but you don't have to if you don't want to. So really you can upgrade as many or as few journeys as you like. The same goes for sightseeing tours as well. You can add in additional sightseeing tours to places that we haven't currently got included. And also you may decide that you're happy with the number that you've got, but you'd like to upgrade perhaps some or all of the tours to private sightseeing tours. And obviously we can look at doing that for you too. So whatever it is that would make the holiday the best holiday it can possibly be for you, you just need to let us know. But hopefully that shows you some of the different ways that you can do that. So any or all of the above, and whether you want to make the holiday longer, shorter, whatever it might be, all you need to do is let us know, really, is the message that we'd like to pass on to you. Okay, let's look at a few more holidays now after that. So moving outside of the UK, another holiday that's very, very easy to do for a long weekend, very close to the UK, is to head over to Bruges and Ghent in Belgium, of course. Again, this isn't a particularly long journey. From London, it's a Eurostar journey over to Brussels, high speed all the way, around about 1 hour, 50 minutes. Just a very, very straightforward change of platform in Brussels. And then you take a connecting train onto Ghent, which is around about 35 minutes or so, for a 2-night stay, including a guided riverboat tour with complimentary drink while you're there. And then after the 2 nights in Ghent, it's another around about 15-20 minute journey or so onwards to Bruges for a 2-night stay, including a city tour before heading home. And these two, as hopefully you can see from these images here, really great destinations to visit if you've not been. They're perfect for a long weekend, for a getaway, and they complement each other very, very well. As you can see, we've got obviously the famous canals, the cobbled streets, a large number of listed buildings from medieval times onwards. Lots and lots of history, some great art museums in both destinations if you like art, and also very, very famous for chocolate, beer. So if you like either of those two things, then you'll definitely be able to indulge those cravings in Bruges and Ghent. They offer plenty of both and lots of different types as well. So if you want to indulge, it's a great opportunity to get stuck in. And Ghent actually has something that Bruges doesn't have. It has a medieval castle, the Gravenstein Castle, which is well worth a visit. But I think one of the great things here about the two destinations is, as I say, is the way they complement each other so well, and they're similar but yet different as well. They've got a different atmosphere to them, different feel to them. Ghent is a university town, so it's got a different, slightly different feel to Bruges. But both wonderful destinations, and they're so close together. They just go together so well. It makes a great, long weekend or holiday, whatever you choose to take it, as they're so easy to visit, city centre to city centre as well. Very, very convenient by train. Moving on to another, which is close to home, very easy to do, slightly different part of Europe now, heading over into France, and Dijon and Lyon, two great destinations, particularly for anybody who likes food, gastronomy, wine, some of the nice things about life. They go together very, very well indeed. And again, it's a very easy journey to do. From London to Paris by high-speed Eurostar is around about 2 hours and 20 minutes. In Paris, we have a straightforward change. And then high-speed direct TGV down to Dijon, first of all, is just over the 1.5 hour mark, so around about 1 hour 36, something like that. We have a 2-night stay in Dijon, including a small group Burgundy tour with wine tastings, very important, and then heading further south down to Lyon. That's around about the same length of journey, around about just over the 1.5 hour mark, around about 1 hour 39 for a 2-night stay. And we have a small group for secret food tour, and this is I think the highlight of the holiday, I think, and I'll come back to that one in just a second because it's absolutely great, I think. So very easy journeys from the heart of one city to another, direct city centre to city centre, and beautiful destinations to visit as well that sometimes you just get all of the attention perhaps that deserve. And Dijon, as you can see on the left, there's some absolutely beautiful buildings. It's the capital of the Burgundy region, but the buildings range from medieval times to Gothic build decor to Art Deco. There really are lots of different styles, lots of history, and great for food. Famous for Dijon mustard, of course, but also wine in that part of the world, Burgundy, of course, and for food and wine, Lyon, of course, is very famous for that too. It also has a beautiful old town. It's actually the third largest city in France, but it's very walkable, the city centre. It's got a great old town, and in fact, it's also got a 2,000-year-old outdoor theatre that you can visit. And in fact, it still shows 1 or 2 performances every year, actually. There's still 1 or 2 performances that are put on there, but really fascinating place to visit. And for food and wine, it really is. France is obviously famous for that sort of thing. But for anyone who's a foodie, if you've not been to Lyon, this is definitely the destination in France that you have to visit because the food is absolutely great. So speaking about food and wine, in Bordeaux we have a Burgundy tour that gets out into the small group tour, all important wine tasting. And in Lyon, we have the secret food tour, the small group food tour that I was talking about earlier. And the reason I think that's possibly the highlight of the holiday is we have a small number of these secret food tours in different destinations across Europe. And Lyon obviously is very famous for food, but one of the reasons I think these tours are so good is that they take you to places that are, firstly, there's a number of them, so you're not just going to one different destination, one different place to try some of the local food and drink, but also they go to places that are a little bit off the beaten track in the city centre. So they're the sort of places you probably wouldn't stumble across yourself if you or I were heading around the city. They're also perhaps not on the main tourist tracks, so to speak, so they're perhaps not the sort of places you might read about online or in a guidebook and decide to visit. Most cases they're family run, but just lots of different types of food. You'll visit a number of different places, different types of food, here ranging from trying some of the local desserts, cheeses, and so on. But also you get to learn a little bit about the history of the city, and find out why certain foods are popular and why they're associated with the city as well. So really interesting, and most importantly, some great different types of food and drink to try as well. So it really does give you a flavour, the pun is intended, of the city, I think. I'll have to use that one actually on the webinars on Thursday. That's the first time, and well, maybe some people are writing and say don't use it again. Actually, I won't look at the questions in too much detail, just in case that's the feedback that comes across. But all joking aside, it really is a fantastic way, I think, of both getting to know this destination, in this case Lyon, a little bit better, but the experiencing some of the local food and finding out why they're so popular. So I highly recommend this particular tour because it really does give you I was going to say a taste of the city, which is almost as bad, isn't it? But it really does give you a sense of the history, and everything just comes together, and it is well worth doing. Let's leave it at that. And finishing with something slightly different, we'll look at city break, perfect for a long weekend, a long getaway. And this time we're looking at Montreux in Switzerland. But again, Very, very easy to do, very easy to do from the UK in one day. So we'd start off with a direct Eurostar to Paris. Then from Paris, we head into Switzerland with a direct TGV Lyria to Lausanne on the banks of Lake Geneva. Around about 3 hours and 40 minutes, so not a particularly long journey. You can spend a little bit of time in Lausanne if you wanted to have a look around, but to head on to Montreux, it's just a 20 or 25-minute train journey from Lausanne after a very simple platform change. And it's actually a very scenic journey as well, as you follow Lake Geneva around, so lots of great views of the lake itself. Then we have 4 nights hotel accommodation with breakfast in Montreux, and included we have I think it's a theme emerging here. We have a VIP scenic wine tour while you're there, and you also have a Montreux Riviera card included, which gets you discounts and access to lots of good things, which we shall look at in just a second. But what a great setting to be based in for a long weekend. You know, particularly, I think all of these places is beautiful, even more appealing, don't they, at the moment when we're all kind of, you know, getting a little bit itchy feet. You know, we've been stuck at home for a while, not, you know, going over the doorsteps an adventure at the moment, isn't it? So, and I think it's nice for us all to be able to spend some time together on the webinars like this, looking at some of the beautiful places there are to visit on the visit on this great planet we live on. So, and as we can't go to any of them, sadly, right now, it's nice for us to all to be able to, you know, dream together, plan together, look at some of these great destinations. And maybe if you've visited somewhere like Montreux before, it might bring back some happy memories looking at it on the webinar this evening. So if that's the case, I hope it is bringing back some lovely memories for you. But yeah, beautiful destination. Obviously, great setting by the lake on Lac Léman, Lake Geneva. And you can do trips on the lake, cruises on the lake. You can actually go across to the other side, which is actually heads into France. It's Evian-les-Bains, I think, the other side of the lake. And with the Montreux Riviera card that I just mentioned, you get a 50% discount on any of the cruises that run across the lake. So whichever one you pick, you get 50% off. You also get 50% off any of the walking tours in the city. There's also a cogwheel railway, put my teeth in, cogwheel railway up to a little place called Rocher de Nez, which is above Montreux, where you get some absolutely stunning views down, as you can imagine, onto the lake. You get 50% off that with the Montreux Riviera card as well. So lots and lots of value there. And also you can walk along the lake to this great place as well, the Chateau de Chillon, which is around about a 20 to 25-minute walk along the lake, so very, very scenic, from the centre of Montreux, and you get 50% off the entrance to the chateau as well with that card once again. So it gets you access to lots and lots of great things, and of course it's a very interesting, beautiful chateau to explore, and it really doesn't get much better in terms of location, does it, from right on the shores of Lake Geneva itself. So once again, a beautiful destination, perfect, you know, for that long weekend, you know, relaxing breakaway, and very, very easy to do in terms of travel. Very easy from the UK, easy to do in one day, very, very, very comfortably indeed. And there's that you can choose from on our website. We've just got a selection here. I mean, such destinations like Paris and Barcelona really don't need too much introduction, do they? Lots of other great destinations like Berlin as well. It's really easy to do as a city break from the UK. But also perhaps some less familiar ones. Carcassonne on the bottom left in France is a great destination for a city break. Really interesting medieval city with the medieval ramparts that you can see there, the wall city. Very, very interesting. And we've got a number of UK city breaks as well. Obviously, lots of us, when we do start to be able to travel around again, might pick lots of destinations that are closer to home. And if you'd rather just stay in your own country, well, we looked at our own country, I should say. We looked at Edinburgh and York earlier on as well, but we can also look at some other destinations. And I am slightly biased, I will have to own up, but this destination is my hometown, place of my birth. So there's definitely lots of great activities you can get up to on a long weekend or a trip away to Liverpool, whether it's history from, you know, some great museums, maritime history, lots of art museums too, and of course home to a popular beat combo. There's lots of great museums and activities centering around the Beatles. Lots and lots of great activities you can get up to, and making me homesick and nostalgic just thinking about it. But lots of great things you can explore in the wonderful city of Liverpool, and many more across the UK and Europe too. So all of which you can start from your hometown station, wherever it might be. Very easy to do. So that's hopefully given a flavour of some different city breaks and short holidays that you can do, which are very much close to home, easy to access from your local train station. But maybe there's some other destinations that you're interested in. So if there's a destination that you particularly like that we mentioned today, or that perhaps that we didn't mention today, so many to choose from Scandinavia, Austria, Switzerland, Spain, Italy, we didn't really touch on any of those. If you'd like some destinations either that I've mentioned just now, or indeed any others to feature in a forthcoming webinar, why not use the questions box on the screen in front of you and let us know anything you'd like us to feature in the future. If there are destinations you'd like to travel to and you're thinking about, but you'd like some inspiration of different things you could do, what you could combine them with, how it could all work, again, why not use the questions box and let us know. We're always happy to hear from you, and we would love to give you some ideas on how those destinations could work and be turned into holidays. But whatever it might be, if it's a holiday or it just on a webinar to get the creative juices flowing, just let us know. Couple of customer testimonials here. Again, really just hoping to outline how we can make be the one-stop shop for the entire rail holiday experience and take care of all the hard work for you. So once you've decided where you'd like to go, which is half of the fun, then all you have to do is sit back, relax, and we take care of everything else for you. Also, to take this opportunity, as we're doing on every webinar at the moment, is just to say thank you to all those of you out there who voted for us in some of the many awards and nominations that we were nominated for last year, including especially the British Travel Awards. Thank you to everyone who voted for us. We do appreciate it very much, and we were really happy to be awarded the overall winner in the Best Rail Holiday Company category. So thanks to anyone tuning in and everyone tuning in on the webinar who did vote for us. We very much appreciate it. Just a reminder of the website, as I'm sure you all know, railbookers.co.uk is the place to visit if you want to do some more research, get some inspiration. You can search by destination, by different types of holiday, by scenic rail journeys, lots and lots of different ways to find lots of different ideas and suggestions for your next trip. You can also order, if you would like to, one of our 2020 Railbookers brochures. Got a number of different ones. The Railbookers brochure will have some of our most popular holidays in Europe, North America, and beyond. Our sister company, Amtrak Vacations, will have a focus purely on North America. And if it's Canada that you're interested in, well, we work with our good friends and partners at Via Rail, the national rail operator over there. We've got a Via Rail Vacations brochure, which will purely focus on Canada. So whether it's coast to coast, Canadian Rockies, French-speaking part, national Niagara Falls, whatever it might be, lots of great rail holidays over in Canada. So if you'd like any or all of those, again, you can do it via the website, but as you're here, why not just use the questions box and let us know which ones you'd like? We'll be happy to send you a copy. A couple of quick dates for the diary. Some forthcoming webinars, 16th and 18th of June. Talked about wide open spaces, so beautiful Italian lakes definitely fit the bill. So we'll look at our top 5 holidays over to the Italian lakes. And then on the 23rd and 25th of June, we'll look at what we're seeing as most popular booking right now, whether it's for later this year or for next year or beyond. But the top 5 European rail holidays that we're seeing most popular right now. So that's going to feature, just as a little bit of a spoiler, but just to let you know, some of the destinations that will be in there. Now we're seeing some of the most popular Mediterranean destinations, including Spain and beyond. So that gives you a flavour of what we'll be covering in that particular webinar. And just to finish on a lighter note, we realise that, at the moment, as everybody knows, we're all in the same boat, aren't we? We're all stuck at home. We know we're all getting perhaps a little bit itchy feet. We're looking forward to when we will be able to travel and start visiting some of these wonderful destinations once again. We know that none of you are sadly able to be visiting anywhere right now or looking at heading anywhere tomorrow, of course, but hopefully one of the nice things about spending time on the webinars together is we can all start to dream a little bit and start to think about where we might like to travel to next. Obviously some great destinations around that we might choose to be the next port of call. And it's nice to have things to look forward to, I think, isn't it, as well? It's nice to be able to dream together and think of some of these great places we might like to travel to, or, like I said before, bring back some happy memories of places we've visited in the past as well. So a humorous montage of myself and the rest of the team. We're all working from home right now. We've all, I think, got used to that by now, as we've been doing it for a number of weeks since the middle of March. So really our message is, we know you're not going right now, but as we start to think about where we might like to head to once life gets back to normal, whenever you're ready, we're ready. That's the message that we're putting out there. And don't forget, I did say I would remind you before the end of the webinar. Consider this that reminder. If you would like to download those free handouts and that great European Rail Network map, now is the time to do that. So if you haven't done so, now is the time to get cracking. Just about out of time, I think. But before we finish, perhaps let's see if we can have maybe one or two questions. We've got quite a few that have come through. So all of those questions, so we won't get around to all of them right now. Those of you who have submitted ask every question that has been submitted. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that. I'll just take one very quickly. I can see we have a question from, let's make sure I get the names right here. Brian, thank you very much for your question. I hope you are safe and well. And Brian's question is just luggage for the trips over outside of the UK. How much luggage can you take with you? Great question, Brian. And it's a nice, quick and easy one to answer as well. So basically, for any of the holidays as we have here, which don't feature, there are no real luggage restrictions. The official stipulation from Eurostar is that you shouldn't take more than 2 items of luggage per person, 1 item of hand luggage. I don't really think any of us could carry more than that very easily, could we? So the boss, Brian, to answer that question and look after it. If you want to stock up on souvenirs, presents for family, friends, whoever it might be, you can do that. You can also take fluid, liquid on board with you, as long as it's not open liquid or industrial quantities of alcohol. You can make as much as you want. So if you want to have it on the train, you can take you can pretty much take as much as you want, as long as you can carry it and look after it. Okay, I think that's probably all we've got time for. It's marching on as it always does. So just to reconfirm, if you have submitted a question, we will get in touch with you the next day or so. Not evening, we'll let you know evening first, but we will get in touch. And to finish off with, really the most important thing to see is one of these webinars, but it's no less important now, is I hope, and we all hope, that you're all safe and well. Our health is the most important thing. So please do make sure yourself safe and well. Please do continue to remain in that state of affairs. It is important. Starting to emerge at the end of the tunnel, and life might be starting slowly back to normal sooner rather than later. So let's hope so. Please stay healthy. Have a great evening, a great rest of the day. And thanks for spending time on the webinar with us today. And hopefully we'll